Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with Black Ice, and of course we are playing as Japan this series, as you can tell by the description of the video. Okay, this of course is being live streamed on Twitch. You're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, later. So if you either want to jump ahead of tomorrow's show or the next day's show, whenever the next one will be of this series, you can go see the whole video on demand over on Twitch. Or if you want to see the half hour or so of setup that we had while I was chatting with the viewers and get to see their comments as well about things, you can do that too, just advertising. So you can follow me over on Twitch. That's gamer_1745. Alright, okay, well let's continue this. They're rushing into Calcutta right now. Oh, let's see what things reopen the Burma Road causes. Okay, Republic of... Okay. Okay, we'll reopen the Burma Road. Assume stewardship over Malaya. Well, we control Malaya. Don't know how much that would help. Yeah, maybe build some infrastructure there. Okay, okay, we have another ace pilot. Great. Oh, and you actually do join the fight there. You attack up that way, and you hold in Calcutta, hopefully effectively. Okay, now that we have Calcutta, let's grab these divisions here. Click here. Let it know that we want to send them via sea. And that we're going via sea. And down here, also let them know. Now, Calcutta is a major port, so we should be able to supply ourselves there. Effectively. And another ace pilot. And we have more military factories available. And okay, we're going to go by that and add yeah, another 5 to fighter production. And we are trading for a bunch of oil, but from somebody. Are we okay, Kingdom of Iran, Peru. Let's cut that down. That'll be better. You don't think my doctrine path is? No. the best here for this. Well, we've made it down to here. You would have thought mass assault, maybe? Because it probably isn't mobile warfare, or I don't know about superior firepower. That might have been a thing. Infiltrations. Oh, you're down here. Yeah, that might have been a better idea. I'm just too used to playing Germans, and I know what's good. Maybe not always perfect or the best, but good for playing as Germany. Okay, well, well, now we have some heavier ships that are about ready to get involved. Okay, I'm glad I got those carriers back operational here. Somehow they got selected to not be engaged. There we go. We lost two CVLs. Damn. They lost a bunch of aircraft now. And okay, our generals present us with an update on our forces in the field. We now have a large navy, I guess, because we've lost some ships instead of a very big navy. Okay. Not engage, go back to Japan. Return to port. Leave. Yeah, don't engage. We have taken major losses there now. Doesn't make me feel good. Head back. Get out. Run away. Don't know whether it was some of my bad settings that allowed them to do so well, or just simply Dutch East Indies has capitulated. Great, and that helps with the stock of equipment. Very good. Very interesting, eh? That's good to know. Okay, well, we're going to keep engaging these guys with air power, even though our ships are fleeing the zone. And quit India movement. Indians call for independence Indian calls for independence have intensified lately. Now things have come to a head as the radical Quit India movement has called for the United Kingdom to leave the country as soon as possible. The British authorities were quick to react, however, and have cracked down on the movement, arresting several leaders in dawn raids on their homes across India. Reports prepared by Special Branch indicates that many sympathizers are still at large, however, and many in the civil service have expressed fears that more extremist elements in the movement may even resort to violence. Uh-oh. Well, maybe we'll just solve that for them and decide to occupy India instead of the British. And of course, it's all for the Indians' own good. We will help them out. Hello, Darku. Daruk. Sorry, that was bad. Daruk. Bad pronunciation. Just quickly looked up and saw you there. Okay, where are we getting? Yeah, okay, Hong Kong. Oh, we got more police there, and we've got guys of thought coming. Integrated convoy defense and heavier anti-tank weapons. Okay, well, we've maxed out our naval branch. We are going through our aircraft. Heavy fighters, we could do. We are currently in 42, so just trying to see. Okay, 42 is this line. Yeah, approved flying boats. We like flying boats. I'm loath to add more equipment production to my needs, but we can improve what we already have. That would be good. So Chandra Bose can head home and be mayor again of Calcutta. Okay, we've got Rubal. Do we have an airbase in Rubal? A little one, I guess. Well, where's the airbase? Here? I hate the way these things are working. Or is it just here? Is that meant to be everybody? I guess that's already meant to be there. So you know, okay. Come up around that way. How much of my fleet made it back here? Okay. Big thing, obviously we need to get repairs for some of these vessels. We lost 2 CVLs. We're doing okay with aircraft though, and we might. But what we need are destroyers. But we don't even have all of these producing anymore. Okay. Where's anti-tank guns? Oh, probably up at the top because they're just improved. Well, that may be something like we need to go over to total mobilization. So we're currently at war economy. Yeah, let's do that. That will help out production. Okay, now you start heading back up there. You guys get to march along here. And now that we're out here, okay, you come there. You come there as well, since you're motorized. And you attack north. You can support that attack. You're still moving more units up via the sea. Very good to hear. Well, what, isn't Marnman doing blacker ice? So, yeah, that's sort of that, and I hear Panzeroo isn't much around the, anymore, so don't know if he's at all, what's up with him, but yeah. Do you think, not exactly sure your question, IKB. On Man the Guns, it's going to be a big improvement. It's going to be a big improvement. It's going to really help out Hearts of Iron 4. You know, it's only getting better. Typical Eastern state. Yeah. I can imagine that as being the way they would be thinking about that. Oh, come on. There we are. Get on board ship there and come to this port here. There we go. How is oh no, this production going now? Now that we are at a war economy. Okay, well we got a little better. But we took something of a hit there. I'm not sure why. And improved radar, very nice. Oh good, we are crossed here with a good amount of force. Let's push a bit deeper. They can push up there and Let's support that attack. Okay, the Katori class, very nice. Let's improve our wartime AA for our ships. Okay, that breakout didn't happen the way I wanted it. So you guys go here, and you go there, and you attack up there. Pin them. Pin them. You attack there. You support the attack. Come on, we gotta pin this Indian army down. I just don't know what to do other than continue to pump in more aircraft. How are we doing for basing? Okay, we've got a little bit more. Yeah, I understand about attacking across the rivers, but what I'm hoping to do, and since they don't have a spoiling attack option, what I'm trying to do is delay their movements to reinforce some of these other points, as opposed to actually thinking about getting, like, I'm attacking here so that I can get these guys across the river before these guys can come in and fully do it. At least some of my plans, like get these guys to here, just like they've done that. That is at least the hope. Might not be the actuality, but that's the hope. Okay, that didn't work out. You joined that attack then. I've taken 2 islands away from me, and if I'm not mistaken, didn't they have 2 air bases on them before? They're building air bases. That's what it looks like they're doing. How are my fleets doing here? Okay, still pretty beat up, and we need destroyers. We don't have any destroyers hardly. I mean, we've got a few in some areas, but not much. Yeah, we need to build more. I know. As soon as that's done, we're gonna end that production. I think we'll keep the subs in production. And these guys, oh, cancel that. No, just cancel the whole thing. Yeah, that will put more destroyers, and we'll continue with the improved version. Another bunch, so that's 8 a year plus 3 a year. Oh good, we've gotten up to there, so you guys march to there. You guys move here. You attack again there. Supported by these guys, but not actively get across the river. Okay, well they don't need to march down there since they surrendered, so you guys can come back to here. Okay, amphibious tanks and equipment. Okay, we'll do resistance suppression. Basic idea was Asia for the Asians. They wanted to reduce European influence in the continent. They even let the locals run their own countries. I would disagree with that. That's the propaganda AZADs. That wasn't anywhere near the reality in any of the cases. Hey, Lord. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm not buying any of that idea that Japan was really wanting to do Asia for the Asians. They were trying to do it for themselves. The Japanese were extremely exploitative. I don't know the details of how much Sukarno got to run Indonesia for Indonesia under the Japanese. Wang, that's the guy for the reorganized, well, China, nationalist China. Okay, Emperor Puyi, I believe, was a Chinese patriot, whether you want to call him a Manchurian patriot or a Chinese patriot. He was trying to do good for his people. I truly believe that. I forget his first sort of prime minister that he had was a Chinese imperialist patriot who quits, resigns, goes into, you know, not exile, but goes into retirement, because Manchukuo is way too much of a puppet state. So I will gladly, you know, and then he gets replaced by another guy who works with the Japanese. I will gladly state that people like Sukarno, he was a nationalist. But the reality of what happens in Manchukuo is highly exploitative. Now, I don't know if general life under the Japanese for the Manchukos versus life under whoever it was, whatever warlord, faction, regional leader in this part before the Japanese took over. For the average person, I don't know if it was better or worse, both in an economic as well as in a likely to be picked up off the street. How likely was the warlord to pick you up off the street to draft you into his army? Just people wandering around randomly picking people up. You're in the army now, come with us, kind of thing. And that was going on in many places in China, and definitely during World War II. A lot of times what they would do is, back sort of in the interior of the country, the local provincial leader would say, hey, you need to provide 5,000 recruits this month or whatever it is. And although they definitely got true volunteers, people showing up, I want to join the army and fight the Japanese, they also, a lot of times, you saw Chinese men being marched across China with their hands tied behind their back and ropes around their neck in lines of like 10 or 20 in a column, being marched forward. That was common. I don't know if it was standard, but that was common recruiting practices. Once you caught these soldiers, march them up to wherever you were turning them into, whatever depot, and your recruiters for, okay, we made this month's quota of recruits for your Chinese Nationalist Army. So they showed up there, and they were constantly worried about desertion, because they weren't so worried that they kept all the soldiers, of course, tied up by their neck once they got them well out of their region, because regional dialects, no one knows you, they're not going to help you if you desert, if you're way far away from home, and you may not be able to make it back, so it's probably better to stay in the army. But when you're near home, trust me, they would flee like all hell. So life wasn't easy in China. And this was going on in the warlords era, post-World War I warlords, mostly in the 20s. It's going on when China is more or less unified, but still, I've had debates with some, Chinese patriot types. Oh, no, the warlords, that was over in, 1930 or something. And there wasn't still these factions, especially the sort of, what you see with the start of Hearts of Iron factions. And then you sort of look into it. Yeah, well, the Ma faction, if Chiang Kai-shek ordered 10 divisions south, there may be no divisions showing up. So if not in a factual, de jure type way, in a de facto way, there were still major warlord factions within China up until the end of Chiang Kai-shek's rule on the mainland, and we see some of the warlords that made it out to places like Burma with considerable armies, and some of them are still there, or their descendants now to this day, of Chinese groups living in mountain regions, often growing poppies and other things to support themselves. So they're still in existence, these factions. I don't know that it was more brutal or worse for the Manchukos under the Japanese than what it was before for the average person, but it was very exploitative. And I know in the Philippines, the Japanese were incredibly unpopular. The Filipinos hated the Japanese. Just completely hated the Japanese. And from everything, and yeah, I'm getting some of this stuff from American propaganda films made during and shortly after the war. A few of them made during the war, but I've known Filipinos too, so it's not just over media kind of things. And the Filipinos just hated the Japanese. Not that they maybe loved being an American colony, but they hated the Japanese. And even those that fought the Americans, particularly in the South, again, particularly Muslim, they didn't hate the Americans like they hated the Japanese. They didn't like the Americans, but they didn't hate it, at least not to the scale. Hey, J. Pauls, good to see you. Well, this is going to be controversial to some people. The Filipino culture is somewhat sycophantic. You're right, Azads. I do think they like the Americans the best over the Spanish, but they really like the Americans. And I've know a lot of Filipinos, and now the ones I know, because I've never been to the Philippines, I've all made it to the U.S. And no, they're not, because I got to know some. No, they're not just telling me what I want to hear. I know some of them well enough to know that they're, they really like America, and they like the Philippines, but they'd rather be in America, so. Okay, JP. That is hopefully easy for me to remember. Okay, so we're pushing in here. Just checking. We still haven't been able to cut. See if you can cut off. So I want to cut off some of these guys. Yep, they're fighting there. Good. Delay. Get across. Motorized. Get across. Before they can counterattack, come into here. See, I'm trying to get to here, but these guys, looks like a cavalry division is heading this way. And so if we can delay them, we can get there. And push. Population size isn't the main determinant. And population size does matter, but isn't the main thing. Oh, gotta tell them to get on boats. Get on boats, mountain troops. Get on boats. And then come up to Calcutta. To the port. There we go. Well, Arabs are very chauvinistic. And I know we're having both friends within here on Twitch chat know me very well, but also viewers later on know me that I'm not a racist. I don't see things in racial terms, but I do in cultural terms, which is a bit different. And you support that attack. That's the whole idea there, and then you come there. And Europe is the biggest problem for population levels and sizes is much more of a if you're importing large groups of people and you're not having fairly large amounts of local population growth either. Well, see, I disagree with that, Azad. I'm not a demographics person. You do have the problem of taking care of aged people. That is a real concern. But as time goes on, I'm thinking, and I'm coming back to hover over Japan for a reason. As time goes on, I think if you can take care of your aged population, I actually think a smaller population is better for Japan because of automation and other modern technologies that are happening in Japan. They don't need a huge population base. I think they have a larger farmer population base than they need, in that they could easily have larger farms with, because Japan has lots of traditional small farmers, and they are sort of semi-mechanized or whatever, with a lot of sort of smaller sort of mechanized farming tools compared to particularly American scale farming tools, and more larger industrialized farming that Japan could convert over to. So Japan can deal with a smaller population, especially if it isn't trying to occupy Korea, Taiwan, Manchukuo, China, the Philippines, and everything else. If you're just trying to be here, you don't need a large population size. And now, a lot of frigates or destroyers may only literally have like 10% the crew size than they did in World War II. And so you don't need as many people to support a defense organization. You don't need a huge population. Your population size isn't a critical factor. Now, of course, we're looking at an island, so it's much easier to defend. You can sink refugee rafts or whatever, population invasion rafts, we'll call them that. And you can sink those. Not that you should, but you can. And since Japan basically lets in no population other than some workforce people that know that they're going home after a while, it's not going to be overrun by people. Now, if you're the U.S. and you're having birth rate size going down and you're constantly letting in large populations of people from the other part of the world, you are eventually going to be taken over by your new citizens, your more recent citizens. And I know ideologically a lot of people want that. They say this out loud, brown America. And these are all on the left. They want a brown America. And so they're racists. They're looking at this purely from racial viewpoint. I look at it from a cultural viewpoint. I look at it and see, oh, you mean we have a flood of Eastern Europeans? Now, I have nothing against Eastern Europeans, but they're not my culture. I'm, an Anglo-American Scot, and that's my sort of cultural heritage. And so that's what I want to see. That's what I think America sort of is. It is a mixture of those sort of two things: Scottishness, Englishness, modified by the colonial experience of moving into America. That is sort of the primary cultural influences into America. Of course, we have others, many of them European, but if we were to all of a sudden be inundated by Poles or even by Germans or whatever else, you're going to have a population shift. And the reason I'm focusing on them is because racially they're about the same people. I'm not talking race, I'm talking culture. And so whether you're talking former Warsaw Pact type peoples that have been used to various dictatorships, and even when they, and very, very limited democracies, or back to ancient kingdoms. Their kingdoms in Eastern Europe were very different to the kingdoms with the Magna Carta and the development of Parliament in England. You even have different kingdoms very across the channel in France. So you have different governmental viewpoints. Was the government the elites ruling the people, or was the government something that, through Parliament, had real say, even when you had King Charles the whatever, or something, or the later King George's. So you have these different viewpoints, and I haven't looked at the chat in a minute. I'll look at there, but I'm still pontificating. So you have these different traditions. So if you have a lot of infusions of people who see government differently, and let's jump to the Italians. The Italians see government, especially in southern Italy, very different than northern Italy, and see it different than many other Europeans. They see government as an oppressor, because government in southern Italy had often been the Bourbons, that were either sort of French or Spanish Bourbons, or they were in the north, obviously, too, but you have Habsburgs at different times, but also down in the south. And so you often see these monarchies that are popping up around places in Italy and being there for many generations, really looking to other sorts of traditions as opposed to the locals that they were more exploiting. So you have the growth of the mafia type tradition, in which there is a local bandit, a local protective type association against the government. And so you have this kind of tradition. So the government was this sort of overlordship, and we sort of have to take care of our own selves, and so we do so by violence as well. And that tradition has come into America because of Italian migration into America. And again, I'm not, what's he doing, slamming Italians? No, it's just the realities of history and culture. So I'm trying to keep this very European, purely on the idea that I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about culture. So if we get flooded, one of the groups of people that if we got flooded by that we would hardly notice, other than that you sound extremely strange to us, would be Australians. Because in many ways, you're like us. Because you come from that sort of Anglo-Scottish backgrounds. You are recent developers, colonializers, whatever you want to call it, of a region that was not designing to be an overlordship, say in Africa or in India, in which the colonizers, had a huge local population that they were just going to be a thin elite on top of it. No, you were building your own country. You were going what was very primitive, at least design and structurally, industrially, whatever you want to call it, primitive peoples. And so you have that recent experience. So Australians and Americans in so many ways are alike, and in a few ways, and obviously I referred to your accent sounds not bad, but just strange or weird to us, and I'm sure mine does to you. Tippett is who I know, that I know Australians listening to it. And so it's not a slam, it's just a comment, an observation. And so we look at that, and so a large flood of Australians wouldn't disrupt us, because it would be like and trust me, I've seen this very much, a large flood of Easterners moving into, say, California, or like one Nevada, a very interesting state. Most of you know it for Las Vegas and the gambling and some movies and that kind of thing. Nevada is a very, very, very Western state in very many ways. Very do-it-yourself, very, everybody can just, self-reliance. It's, in sort of modern political terms, it's very conservative, but it's not just that. It's locally within the state, there is no difference between owning a single shotgun and a machine gun in the state of Nevada. Still have the federal rules. There's a bunch of federal government rules for machine guns, but there's no state rules for it. So guns are just whatever you want to do with guns in the state of Nevada. It's very Western. Because of the mob, and because of other things, there was a lot, and it's still to someday continued, a large migration of Easterners into the city of Las Vegas. So you find a lot of the people, and I've been there a lot, talked to them, a lot of the people sitting at, the dealers at the gambling tables working for the casinos, a lot of these people, they're all from like New Jersey, on other places like that. They're not from California, they're not from Wyoming, they're not from Texas, they're not, 80-90% of them that I've ever talked to and ever got to, because sometimes you're sitting there for hours playing blackjack, and so you're talking to some of these people, and sometimes you can hear it in their accents very, very clearly. Other times it may not be so clearly, and you sort of, they ask you where you're from, you ask them where they're from, and whatever else. And sometimes they're sort of maybe, second generation living in Las Vegas, but once you find out, most of them are from like New York State, New Jersey, that sort of things. And I'm not saying they're mob connected, but in any mob sense, but they're just, that was their hiring pool. That's sort of where they got, and it's the service industry. It isn't just the gambling that I don't talk to the person who checks you in the hotel for very long, but I played lots of blackjack, as you can sort of tell. And so you spend a lot more time with the dealers than the cocktail waitresses who come and give you free drinks. So that's just a little more familiarity with the dealers. But all of it all has this sort of connection to the East Coast. They're sort of jumping. You don't hear people say with Louisiana accents being the workers in there. Now you get the sort of the people who aren't there to interact with the customers in any meaningful way, and a lot of those in Vegas are your sort of Mexican labor of one sort or another, coming north from that way. They're the busboys, they're the hotel maids, they're that kind of thing. But if you were sort of a public service type person, you're from the Northeast, largely. So that changed. So that you have this island of Las Vegas inside this big, fairly empty state of Nevada. So you can have like Senator Harry Reid, who was a Mormon, but a very liberal leftist Mormon. So the Democrats will vote for him. There's also a large Mormon population that moved south out of... they left Utah because Utah banned polygamy, so a lot of the polygamists went to Las Vegas, and then later other Mormons just came for the jobs. They're not all polygamists in Las Vegas, but or Nevada. So you have a lot of Mormons. So he was sort of kind of acceptable to the socially conservative, but also a Democrat. So you get this sort of battling back and forth in Nevada as to who runs the state, the people out in the state or the people in the city of Las Vegas. So you see these attitude changes. And so Australia would be sort of, and if we got flooded by huge numbers of people from Australia, you'd see this shift in America, but it would just be a minor shift. But we move in a bunch of, whether it's Arabs, Indians, Chinese, or other groups, you're going to see radical cultural changes, and I don't think Americans want it. Now I'm going to scroll back. Well, we're going to end on this controversial statement. We're going to end the episode here, not the chat, of course. I'll be checking that online. So, hey, if you haven't already, follow me over on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, and like the videos. I do thank you for that. And, of course, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas, corrections. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.